Apple's Mac sales have dropped 40% compared to last year, the biggest drop in 23 years. The only question is, why? Well, there are 3 reasons that I'm gonna explain in this video, and one of those is admittedly me. Yes, I'm sorry Apple, it's partially my fault, so let me explain why. Ever since Apple launched the M2 MacBook Air last summer, I've been calling it a disappointing stopgap chip, and I received so much hate, especially on tech Twitter, for basically making a big deal out of nothing. Well, I was trying to warn everybody that the M2 chip is a stopgap, or basically just an overclocked version of the M1, and that people who really want an upgrade should wait for the M3 instead. And essentially the same thing happened when the M2 Pro and Max MacBook Pros came out in January. I warned people that the chip hasn't changed that much and that the M3 family was gonna be a huge deal, so they should probably wait. And based on these terrible Mac sales numbers, it looks like lots of people have been doing just that. Way back in June of last year, I made this tweet thread detailing my theory on the M2 chip, and that is that Apple basically delayed the real M2 chip and gave us a stopgap based on the A15, which was also a stopgap chip. And I explained throughout this thread that 3nm chips were supposed to be coming last year, but they were delayed by TSMC, and because of that, Apple was forced to make the M2 chip still based on the same 5nm. Basically, the idea is that TSMC promised that 3nm chips would be ready for the iPhone 14, but then in August of 2021, they confirmed that the 3nm chips would be delayed, missing the window for the 2022 iPhone, which they did. And because of that, Apple was initially planning to have the entire M2 chip family based on 3nm, but because of those delays, they would not be ready in time, so they had to basically come up with a stopgap chip, which was the M2 based on the same 5nm. And it's essentially just the M1.5 chip, and the M3 that we're waiting on later this year was supposed to be the original M2. And therefore, the M2 chip that we got was a stopgap chip. And what ended up happening is that the whole stopgap chip thing caught on, with even Mark Gurman from Bloomberg calling the M2 a stopgap chip ahead of the better performing M3 chip. And things like that stick, especially from Mark, who is the best Apple leaker out there. So I'm sorry, Apple, I'm partially to blame. Not only that, but people have been discussing the reason for the huge Mac sales drop, and part of that reason, according to an ex-Apple employee, is that COVID derailed Apple's plans, which led to the delay of the real M1 successor, which is of course the second reason in this video, the M3 chip. So let's jump right into that. But first, I've got to talk about the perfect sidekick to any Mac or MacBook, the new Geminos monitor from Mobile Pixels. Featuring ergonomically designed dual-stacked 24-inch monitors with minimal gap between them and very minimal desk space required thanks to the built-in base that has extra ports like USB-A and C ports, Ethernet, and 2 SD card slots. Plus, the monitor angles can be quickly adjusted and pivoted to match your preference and height of the built-in 1080p webcam. So check out the Geminos dual-stack monitor using the link below. Now, just about the first time we heard about Apple's M3 chips was way back in December of 2021, saying that Apple would use TSMC's 3nm chip technology for the M3 chip, and that they would likely debut in 2023, including iPhone 15 models with the A17 chip and Apple Silicon Macs with M3 chips. And it turns out that rumor from DigiTimes was actually correct and spot on. And then in April of 2022, Mark Gurman from Bloomberg said that Apple's already working on an iMac with an M3 chip, saying that they're gonna be skipping the M2 basically because it's a stopgap with no real major advantage for the iMac, and that would be coming in 2023 at least, so he was correct there as well. And then finally, only last month, Mark confirmed that the new iMac with the M3 chip is in advanced stage of development, coming as soon as later this year, with final confirmation just yesterday morning saying that yes, we did get a huge Mac shipment drop over 40%, but it should start to turn around with the upcoming new 13-inch Air, 15-inch Air, Mac Pro, and M3 iMac. That is what people are waiting on. And then of course we've had countless leaks and rumors of the MacBook Air coming with the new 3nm M3 chip the second half of the year. And then once again from 9to5Mac, an exclusive leak that both the 13 and 15-inch will use M3 chips, maybe even a refreshed MacBook Pro, yes, coming later this year. So why is the M3 chip such a big deal? Well, TSMC's 3nm process is a major step up because we've been on 5nm ever since the original M1 came out in 2020. And yes, the M2 and M2 Pro and Max chips are 5nm chips. And even the A16 Bionic chip in the iPhone is called 4nm, but it's really just third generation 5nm. So the M3 built on 3nm will be the first major IP improvement in years, which basically means that the underlying technology that the actual CPU and GPU cores are built on is going to be improved with 3nm transistors that are basically able to produce more performance at the same level of power usage, or producing the same performance with less power usage. Like for example, this leak that came out saying that Apple's A17 3nm chip could be 35% more energy efficient, enabling longer battery life, which everybody loves on iPhones, MacBooks, anything portable. It's a very big deal. And not only that, but I actually did some M3 chip performance estimations in this video right here, and it is a massive improvement. So much so that the M3 chip will likely outperform the binned 14-inch base MacBook Pro. Now that by itself is going to get a lot of people to upgrade from their original M1 model to the M3 because of the huge jump in performance. And then of course people are going to be buying up the M3 iMac coming as soon as later this year because the M1 model just wasn't enough performance for some people who wanted a desktop Mac, and it's already 2 years old. People are waiting for a better version to buy, and since the M3 chip is so powerful, it's going to be perfect for people who want a high performance iMac. And then of course we have the 15-inch MacBook Air, which just yesterday we got another leak saying that the components are underway. They're coming, they're being built. Ross Young just confirmed it, and it's looking like a WWDC launch is likely, although I do think that it makes more sense to launch in the fall, but there is a chance that it could come at WWDC. And personally, I think that the 15-inch Air model is going to be a massive instant hit, allowing people to finally get a better deal on a large screen Apple Silicon Mac. So the sales of the 14-inch MacBook Pro are probably going to suffer. However, we're also expecting the M3 Pro and M3 Max chips built on 3nm next year, so people should probably just wait on that if they want a really high performance MacBook. And then finally, the third reason for the Mac sales going down is the macro economy, which is going down due to a chain reaction of events that started with COVID and a massive overstimulus plan, which ended up causing inflation, which began eating away at people's savings, which then caused the Fed to raise interest rates faster than they've ever have before in an attempt to lower inflation by lowering the wealth effect, which literally means that the Fed wants people to feel less wealthy so they spend less money, and that is now causing consumer spending to go down to incredibly low levels, especially in the tech sector. Just look at some of these headlines. Samsung is going to be reducing chip production because their profits dropped by 96%. Another headline, desktop GPU sales hit a 20-year low. Foxconn, TSMC revenue, they all fell. The entire tech sector is going down, and layoffs are up nearly 5-fold so far this year, with tech companies leading the way. And then now those layoffs are showing up in the jobs data, especially in the South. Finally, they're starting to show up. And here you can see this savings rate has collapsed to just 2.2%, basically matching the lowest level ever of Americans saving money in their bank. And why is that happening? Well, because the inflation rate has been outgrowing wage growth, so it's harder to make a living right now. And that, of course, is leading to record low consumer sentiment about the economy. So when consumers don't feel good about it, they start spending less money. And here we just had a headline saying that in 2021, renters making less than $30K a year had just $380 left each month after paying rent, the lowest amount in more than 20 years. And then this chart right here saying that household excess savings will likely be gone by mid-2023. So if you have no excess savings, who's gonna be buying tech products like Macs right now? And all of that is happening while credit card balances are skyrocketing to record high levels that we've never seen before. So no wonder Mac sales are going down. But I am hopeful that with the launch of the M3 chip and those Macs, everything is gonna start recovering and a lot of people are gonna start buying. Hopefully everything turns out better by then. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did, let me know down in the comment section below. Click the circle above to subscribe. Check out one of those 2 videos right there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.